My microphone was muted the whole time. My microphone was muted the entire time. And I told myself to check for that. Because I noticed it in the loading video, the stream starting soon video. I noticed it was unmuted, so I muted it. So I made a mental note, unmute it when you switch to face cam. Well, I guess that didn't happen, did it? Anyway, let's restart, shall we? Welcome on in, everybody, to Finish It Friday live stream. Today, what I want to do is walk you through how I build out a project plan, starting with some deadlines, and then essentially what we'll do is kind of work backwards from there and kind of list all the tasks. So it's not so much of like a calendar that we're going to be building today, as much as a to-do list, a big to-do list. I'll show you how I do that to help you get started. It's not supposed to be perfect, it's just to help you get started. And we'll do that using the app Freeform. So that's an Apple app. I used it a couple years ago to help keep myself organized for everything that had to happen for my different dissertation projects, how to stay on top of them. And so we'll use that. I'll show you kind of like how I formatted it and like worked backwards to it. Then I don't want to spend a ton of time doing that. I don't think I need to spend too much time doing that. What we'll do afterwards is I found a cool website that generates ideas for live streams. The reason I wanted to check that out is because in the weekly update video that I posted today, I talked about how I got way ahead on content. I've got like months planned out. Not fully drafted, like I don't have all the posts ready, but at least I have like ideas of what I want to talk about and what I want to do and the activities that I want to do for the next couple months. And I know in the video, I talked about how I had ideas for live streams, and I have a couple, but I don't have a ton because I haven't quite figured out the best content for these live streams. The tier list was a hit. And we'll do more of those, and we'll do more of them. But I feel like we can't do them every week. I don't know that many things to rank. Especially if I wanted to keep it choral related, which I guess we don't have to do. Or even like science or research based. Like, we don't have to do that, but I'd like to. And I just don't think I can come up with that many ideas on my own. I don't know if any of us can. So we're gonna look at some ideas, play around with it a little bit. Update. I also just posted the job list for this week, so I finished that. That should be online. Everything's updated for this week. Added 4 jobs, I believe. But now we're comfortably over 30. Like, I don't know. There's good things and bad things about that. Like, for me as the content creator and one who wants to share jobs, it's great to see that list building. It means that there are jobs out there and that I'm finding the resources to find those jobs. The bad news, kind of bad news, or it's a trend that I'm noticing. There's a handful of them there's a handful of those jobs that they don't have a deadline attached to them. It's just they're open until they're filled. There's a handful of them that have been on there for several months. And that's concerning. That's concerning. Like some of them have been there since like January or February, which means no one's taking those jobs, or they're not taking candidates. Maybe they just didn't update their website, but I've seen other updates to some of them, and I'm hoping that gets resolved. I would like to see more. I would like to have more and more jobs. I'd like to have a very thorough, complete list of Coral jobs. But if some of them just aren't getting taken or just not getting filled, like what's happening? There's some kind of misalignment somewhere, either from the employer's end or from the market's end. I don't know. Something I'm keeping my eye on because it's bothering me. We see how we handle that for the future. I'm not totally sure. But okay, enough of that, I think. Let's go ahead and dive into some project planning. Let's switch over to here. Let me make sure the microphone stays on for this. It appears to be. I can't believe I've had this happen twice in the past 2 weeks. What, last Friday, for the weekly update video, my microphone completely disconnected while I was walking. That was so not cool. The hard part about that is I had to rethink of everything that I said. My brain is not good at that. My brain is really not good at like remembering things that I just talked about. Meanwhile, I can remember things from years ago. I'm like, why do I still remember that? Why do I still retain that information? I don't need it. But I keep on to it. Like, for instance, for things that I forget, back in undergrad, during exams, I would take the exam, I'd finish the exam, and then, you know, you and your friends, like, you get together and you talk about it, like, how did it go? And I'd be like, it felt fine. It was an exam, as good as an exam can go. And they would ask, well, what did you get for this question? I'm like, the what question? Which question? I don't know what you're talking about. I forgot. I forget right away. I like push it right out of my brain. It's done. It's in the past. I move on. But then I'll remember very obscure facts about people. They'll tell me certain things about their life history, and I'll remember that forever. It's like totally random facts. Totally random facts. Anyway, okay. Another rabbit hole. Let's climb out of. Let's talk about the projects. Let's talk about projects. So I found this file. It's an older file. You can see it's my 2024 goals file for my dissertation. This is in Freeform, by the way. I know I mentioned that before, but I'll say it again. And essentially Freeform is just like this giant virtual whiteboard. You can post anything. I really like it for the fact you can treat it as a whiteboard. Like I have all these post-it notes on there, I have all these different writings, and it's kind of a hodgepodge, it's kind of a mess. Just like with a real whiteboard. But what's great is it's on my computer. And while I find value in writing things down, especially in the planning stage, like I much prefer writing on a physical whiteboard. When it comes to projects that are going to take multiple years though, it kind of came in handy to have a virtual version that I could check in pretty much whenever, wherever. So you have to erase the whiteboard stays in the room that it's located in, it stays in the lab. So you might not be able to see it. And I take photos of it. I take photos, sure. But you just don't always have access. So I played around with it, and I'm probably not using Freeform to its full capabilities, but I don't know, I guess I have caveman brain, and I just wanted it simple. I wanted it fast and simple, so I use sticky notes for everything. And how I'm going to show you how I go about project planning is we'll focus on this project, this chapter 2, the Acrobat project, which has since been renamed. We don't call it that anymore. But this was it says chapter 2 here. It's technically my 3rd chapter because my 1st chapter was the introduction. So all these got bumped. But this is before I had been really formally been writing, when I probably should have. Oops. It's done now. It's published. It's all good. This isn't published. I'm still writing it for publication, but anywho. So the ultimate goal with research projects really is we can go super far on this too. That's another great thing about Freeform. You can zoom in, zoom out, super detailed. So pretty much the end goal for almost every research project is you're going to submit it for publication. You're going to submit it to a peer-reviewed journal, and that's your goal. It's best to start with the end in mind and set a deadline for that. Now, I think when I was muted, I was talking about how bad I am at setting deadlines for myself. I am way too ambitious. But what's great also about deadlines, if you start the planning process early enough, is you can adjust as things go. Once you start diving into the tasks that you have, then you can realize, oh, that was too much. There's no way I'm going to be able to do it. And you can adjust accordingly. If they are hard deadlines set by a grant funder or a government report or something, that's a little different. Those are a little harder to get away with. But I'm not super interested in talking about setting strong deadlines for today. Maybe we do that for the future. I probably should get better at that before we do that. It's probably a weakness of mine, is setting appropriate deadlines. Anywho, so always start with the end in mind. Set a deadline. And it doesn't have to be perfect right off the bat. It can be arbitrary. This is just to provide a frame to put everything else in. So for this project, this chapter 3, we're just going to call it chapter 3, I had set a deadline to submit for peer-reviewed publication or for peer review by November 1st, and this was in 2024. So these were my goals for 2024. Now that I know when the end is and what the end goal is, I like to work backwards and reverse engineer everything involved to get to this point. So to submit for publication, for instance, what's the next immediate step? Oh, you need the paper. You probably need the paper done. And in particular, you also, for peer-reviewed publication, you're going to need sign-off from your co-authors. And you're going to have a set of revisions just from your co-authors. So I thought I had to put that in this one. Detour. We're taking a detour. Let's see if it's in. I had updated it to 2025. Here's chapter 2. Aha. So you can see that I did not make my deadline of November 1st, 2024, because I ended up setting a new deadline for May 15th of 2025. So you can see I'm pretty bad at deadlines. Anyway, that would be the next, well, really the previous step from submitting for peer review is to incorporate all the revisions from your co-authors, get their final sign-off, your co-author's final sign-off, and then you go ahead and submit it to the journal. Before this process, then, at least if you're a grad student, you're going to need to have a draft for your advisor. My advisor was Dr. John Parkinson, so just listed as send it to John. John Doe. So then if you continue, working backwards, when it comes to writing, you might do it section by section. Everyone's writing process is a little bit different, but you'll have probably all of these but you'll have writing goals. And those are going to have deadlines. Everyone's order is a little bit different. Frankly, at least I know it's popular. Methods usually comes first, mainly because you're doing them. Before you can write anything else, you're probably doing the methods. So that's probably going to be the easiest one to knock out. It's usually the most boring, and people don't like to do it. But it's the easiest to continue writing just to make progress. Then you'll probably have your figures. You'll get your data from after you process everything. You'll get your data, you'll run the analyses, and you'll have to create figures, write the results associated with those figures, and then probably a discussion based on your results. And then I like to end with the introduction, because your introduction is, the content in there is going to be based entirely on what you're discussing, because the purpose of the intro is to introduce the concepts that you are going to discuss in your discussion. Sorry, I'm using the titles, so the terms, to define themselves. Apologize for that. So that's kind of writing, usually the end process. There's going to be some mixing and mingling. You're going to have to reanalyze stuff as you're writing. You maybe will have other data to collect as you're analyzing and writing. It's not ideal, and I mean not ideal as in like it sucks when you have to do that. I don't mean it's not ideal as in like it's not the proper way. It happens a lot. It's happened to me. I was writing for this eDNA chapter. I was writing the paper and I still didn't have all of my DNA sequences processed. And so it was a bit of a back and forth between writing and analyzing and processing. Kind of a mix, a little bit ugly. It happens. But that's the execution. Let's go back to the planning. So putting everything on a calendar. So working backwards, yeah, ideally you want like your writing at the tail end because you ideally have everything processed, but it doesn't always happen. So what I would have before the writing, as in the planning process, I would have all of my analyses because I had all of my data collected. Womp womp. So those deadlines would follow there. That didn't make sense at all. Let's take a step back. You'll have your analyses, I suppose. I'm trying to just organize this in my head a little bit because I haven't looked at this document in a while. You're looking at this real-time thinking. It's a nasty process. Even if you don't know exactly what the story is going to look like, while you're planning, you have a goal for your project. Before it even starts, you're like, I want to describe the responses to coral bleaching based on, like, I'm going to manipulate variable A and measure effects X, Y, and Z. So you have the effects, like you want to identify the effects. So that would be ultimately what you're analyzing. That guides what analyses you plan to use, as well as the lab methods. I'm using lab, field, whatever, just experimental methods. That's a better word, experimental methods. And those will become beforehand. So long story short, start with your final deadline, whatever that might be. Even if it's arbitrary, start with the end in mind. List out all of the tasks that you need to do. Everything involved in the writing, everything that's involved in writing that story. How are you going to answer that story? You're going to have this data. You're gonna have a set of data, and you'll have a series of analyses that will help answer those questions to get you to that goal. And then you need to figure out like what to use to generate that data, what experimental methods. Plot those out. How long is it going to take to do that? What resources do you need? What tasks are involved? Do you need permits? Do you need equipment? Do you need a miracle? I don't know. But these are the things, like, you build backwards. And it's not going to be a perfectly reverse engineered process. It's going to be a back and forth in between each one. As you are, for instance, if I'm working backwards, I have the writing, I have the analyses, but I'm building out the lab work. I might think, oh, well, based on this lab work, I'm actually going to need this to happen, this analysis to happen to build out that question. So I usually bounce around a lot, and that's totally fine. It's an ugly process, and it doesn't need everything. It's just to help you get started. Hey, Anna. Wow, this looks like a lot. Yes, it can be overwhelming to look at first. What we're doing here is I'm kind of walking through how to build a project plan, like in its early stages, like one of the first attempts you would have at plotting out a project. So we're talking about deadlines and working backwards to identify the tasks you need to get to that deadline, that research goal. So yes, it looks like a lot. It's a look inside of my brain, which can be a lot. How many chapters do most PhD theses have? Most are like 3 to 4. Mine was 1 literature, so like the introduction, and then it was 3 data chapters. So in total, mine was 4. The reason I have chapters 3 and 4 here for data, originally our sediment project that we did was supposed to be 2 individual chapters. But because of the logistical challenges that we faced, and resultingly only had Japan sediment samples, we could only do 1 of the eDNA chapters. One of them was supposed to be the health project, which is exactly what we did. But then there was supposed to be an additional component to it, another chapter comparing ocean basins. So we were going to have samples from the Pacific, which we do have, and then samples from the Caribbean or the Atlantic, which we tried twice to get and failed both times. So that chapter got quietly pushed away. As it happens. That's a good question, though. How many chapters? I didn't know when I started. I mean, I kind of knew. Like, I had just been Googling around, like, okay, you know, when I first started, I'm like, well, what's a dissertation? Yada, yada. Like, what does it look like? How is it structured? Just things you do in the background. You might not have a strong idea of that yet. That's totally okay. That's totally fine. I didn't have a firm grasp on the structure of mine, at least how many projects I had, until at least my second year. And even then, they weren't like fully solidified into distinct chapters. That we just had a number of projects that we put together. So, okay. Well, I kind of already went on. I already kind of did the monologue. What else do you want to know about plotting or planning out a project, Anna, now that you're here? I can go through the whole thing again, but this is already recorded, so I can just go back. Or just, how are you today? I didn't ask that. I should start there. How are you today? How is your coding going? How would you make sure you're not doing something too ambitious? What a lovely question. You're gonna try. You're gonna try to do something overly ambitious. That's okay. We are young and full of excitement for this. So early on, you're gonna have these ambitious ideas, and that's okay. As you start working through your projects, they're naturally going to become a little more realistic. That's in part due to setbacks. Setbacks happen, and that kind of naturally just like brings the project scope down a little bit, and that's okay. That's okay. This is the first part. This is your opening projects to your career. They're not supposed to be incredibly ambitious. That's what the rest of your career, if you decide to stay in research, would be. You work more, you grow some of those project ideas over time. And then, so there's setbacks, and then also you'll just learn more as you become more and more of the expert in your field throughout your PhD. You'll just realize, you're like, oh, okay, that's just not very realistic. And that's a good thing too. That means you are maturing. You actually are becoming the expert, because you're like, yeah, that doesn't work because of this reason, and this reason. So we're not going to really worry about that. Because you don't have to. You realize it might not be important. It might be too ambitious. You'll grow into it. Let it be. There's a meme of this. Let me find it. Stare at my face for a sec as I pull up Google. Let me find it. Thesis. Oh my god. Okay, so I didn't even know what to search. I just wrote in thesis horse meme, and it actually worked. Okay, here we go. So this is a very common meme in the research field. So the idea is like, you're trying to draw a horse, and this horse is your dissertation. Your first year of your PhD, you have these grand ideas. They are absolutely wonderful, exquisitely detailed, will advance your research field light years ahead. You'll get light years ahead. Year 2, year 3, this is like international, where a lot of PhD programs are 3-year programs, but if you're in a 5-year, like, it's common in the US. Years 2 and 3, You start having those setbacks. You read more and more papers. You realize, it's this, okay, not quite living up to that idea I had in my head, like from year one. And then when you're like in the end stages, you're just trying to finish it. A lot of things have happened. You're tired, and it doesn't always work out. So you're left with this. And you know what? It's okay. It's okay because it's done. That's all that matters. And I'm sure, you pick up more projects as you advance your career, and they all start with like this grand idea, and they all end up looking something like year 3. 'Tis the nature of our field. It's good to have ambition. It's good to be creative and imaginative, and want these wonderful things. But it is also okay if you are left with that, because at least it's done. And well, I don't know if I can post it. Okay, well, I'll have to crop that out. I didn't realize it had curse word on it. That's not good. So let's get rid of that. Whoops. And I'm still messing things up on here. Let's check in again. Okay, you're good. Found out my PI doesn't really like R and wants Python instead. Okay. That might be more helpful. I've seen Python get used a lot for high throughput stuff like that. High throughput stuff like you're working on, like with metabolomics. Although Lawrence still had a lot of R scripts for that. Ultimately, so if he has experience in Python and has a bunch of Python resources and has the scripts, or knows someone who has the scripts to do the analyses that you're going to be doing, that's fine. Python and R are pretty similar in terms, like their language is kind of similar, and they're both worked on so regularly. There's tons of packages in it. You can probably do a lot of the same things you can in R. I don't have a lot of experience with Python, but it's there. Better to go with something that your advisor probably knows better, rather than just some guy. Not some guy. I have my PhD. I did R a lot, so I know a thing or two. But not so much about what you're working on, so it's better to go with what he has in mind. Now that I'm actually beginning my projects, it's kind of scary and overwhelming being thrown in a bit. Have any advice on how to begin with PhD life? Any tips that helped you or wish that you knew? It's scary. It is scary. You realize there's a lot you have to try and get done in a limited amount of time. Oh, and also you've never done it before. It can be overwhelming. One of the best things, I learned it pretty early, but I'd still say I didn't think of it quite early enough. So I wish early me would have known this. It's an apprenticeship. Treat this like an apprenticeship. You don't know anything. All your job is to learn how to do the things that you're supposed to do. I know that seems very vague, but meaning, so let's think of like old school, ye old times of apprenticeships, artisans, like swordsmiths. At some point, you don't know how to do that. You don't know how to make a sword. You don't know how to forge a sword. but you work with someone, aka your advisor, over the span of multiple years, learning the tricks, learning the skills, learning everything to do the thing, to make the sword, to make the dissertation, to make the research product. Trying to make that long story short, it's okay to not know anything. Your job is just to learn how to do these things. And you have to be a little uncomfortable, or you're gonna have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because pretty much through your whole career, you're gonna be learning new skills the whole time. Right now, you're just learning probably how to show up, how to get started, how to read papers effectively. Just focus on that. You're trying to get your projects organized a little bit. Just focus on doing that. That is an awesome thing to do. Then you'll get comfortable with that. You'll get comfortable like the day-to-day life of being a researcher. And then you'll start working on new skills. You're like, okay, now I need to figure out how to get really good at these methodologies, because I have to learn these to produce data, to generate data. And how to autoclave with a crock pot. Exactly. I'd rather use a pressure cooker, because they're kind of the same thing. That's hilarious though. How to autoclave with a crock pot. So, okay, tangent time. Throughout your PhD, you're going to end up with some, sorry, I just turned on Siri somehow. You are going to have some very bizarre Google searches. And they are going to be entirely work-related. You will probably have something like how to autoclave with a crock pot. You'll learn you can't do that. But you'll like double check things. You're like, I don't know if this is right or if I'm just randomly thinking of something. You'll question pretty much everything, every thought that comes into your mind. Simple math, simple writing, spelling. Good God. It's funny, the more you write, the more you're like, I actually don't know how to write this. What words to use. So, okay, that was a little bit of a tangent. I did have a train of thought right before that, though. There's a resource that I want you to have. Let's see if I can find it. I know I have it on my phone. It's called Stupidity in Science. Yes, here it is. I called butane flame a flamethrower. That's rich. That's fantastic. And I can see you doing that too. You're like, the flamethrower. Use it to sterilize things. Perfect. Okay. So I was introduced to this article during my undergrad, my marine ecology professor. It's, wait, this is the one, right? Yeah. The whole purpose of this article is to get you in the mindset that you are going to feel stupid every single day of your career. And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing to be. It's a good thing. I'm going to quickly summarize, and then I'll find there's some really funny, passages in here that I'll highlight if I can remember where they are. To summarize this all, it's like, it's a good thing to be stupid or feel stupid when you're doing research, because that means you're actually entering into the unknown. You are challenging yourself and you are challenging your field, because your dissertation, your research projects are trying to answer questions that are not yet known by anybody. If you're writing up your research and you're like, well, this just feels, I don't know what to do with this, it probably means like, yeah, you might be entering new uncharted territory and we don't have precedent for it. That being said, of course, sometimes you are just, you being the general researchers, not you in particular, I include myself in this too. There's also stupidity in ignorance. And I use ignorance as a very positive term. I actually love the word ignorance. I think it is a very positive thing because ignorance can be okay. It just means you don't know something. There's a lot we don't know. There's a lot that I am ignorant on because I haven't read up on it. I don't know anything about metabolomics, really. I can read papers on it and get the gist of it, but like the specifics, I'm ignorant to that. Tying this into everything, stupidity is a wonderful thing. The absence of knowledge. I think that even this article might use that phrase, like, it's the absence of knowledge. It's a good thing. But then there's like ignorance because you haven't read enough on the topic. That's a little bit of a different story. I don't want to paint that in a negative light either. Like, I don't want you to get the impression that if you don't know something, you're like not reading enough. It's very hard to keep up with research literature, especially nowadays, because their stuff comes out all the time. So it's hard to stay on top of literature all the time. You're not going to be able to get through everything. And it's not necessarily your fault. And a lot of people will feel guilty that they're not reading enough. I have felt that. I don't know how many times. I probably feel it on a weekly basis that I wasn't reading enough. But you also have other things going on. At some point you do need to prioritize reading, but yeah, there's also a lot happening there. So let me put in, is there a better link than just the PDF? Was it from Stanford exactly? I'd rather put, oh goody. Martin Schwartz. Okay, so I'll put the link to the journal instead of the PDF. It's usually a little easier. I recommend downloading this and putting it somewhere safe that you can read. I tried to read it. Stare at my face. I gave a little spoiler about what we're doing next. I tried to read that paper once a year if I could. I think it's a good reminder. I brought it up to lab meeting once. I don't know. I think this was when you were in your chemistry lab, like taking a break from us. We read it in lab meeting. I wish we had talked about it more. We kind of glossed over it. I'm like, no, this is kind of a big deal, I think. But Dr. Parkinson had some good insight too. It's like, yeah, you should feel this way. If you don't feel like you're stupid at some point, you're probably not doing novel research. Sometimes there is research that doesn't have to be novel. You know, we have to repeat experiments here and there. But you need to feel challenged. Another feeling that I would sometimes get during my PhD was it can feel a little isolating at times. And in different layers too. There's a layer of isolation with your friends and family if they're not familiar with research. It's going to be very hard to convey like how you're working because they might think you're just in school. That's not entirely true. Like, you're working, this is your job, you are starting your career in research. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And at some points, like, just the disconnect between non-academics, and I'm not trying to sound elitist here, it can be shocking. It can be hard to describe what you're going through, what you're working on. So there's a layer of isolation in that. There's a layer of isolation with your colleagues, close or far. So people in your department, people within your field, people within your lab, even sometimes there can be a layer of isolation there because they just don't know what you're working on specifically and what challenges you might be facing. And then how it all incorporates like with your life outside of research too. So outside of work, like those research and lifestyle can conflict at times, and that's hard to describe to people. How to overcome that, at least with the layer of emotions within the lab. I was so fortunate. Lauren, Eli, Mats, Caroline, all of you guys, Dr. Parkinson, are wonderful people. And I always felt comfortable sharing things with you guys. And that basically wiped out that layer of isolation. Like, fantastic. A lot of people can have tricky relationships with their advisors, working relationships. With Dr. Parkinson, like, it was very easy to convey when I was having problems with projects and what help I needed. Again, I'm terrible at asking for help, but I always felt safe when I figured out how to ask. Lauren was very empathetic. Her and I talked a lot about things. So yeah, you want to like connect with people. Find people you can really connect with who understand, or at least are willing to listen. That's the best way to overcome isolation, is just to talk about it with folks. What else? What else are things that I like wish I knew? I mean, I wrote that PDF, like 5 lessons that I learned. Some of them, like, terrible at asking for help. I'm also terrible about celebrating successes. Even before my PhD, I was really bad at that. Anything that like I achieved felt like, yeah, I was obligated to complete that. It was just something I had to do. When it's like, no, that's the thing you wanted. That's the thing you wanted. You achieved the thing that you wanted and set out to do years ago. So it's always worth celebrating, even the small stuff, especially the small stuff. Yeah. I hope that answers some of your questions. If not, this is recorded. You can watch this anytime. You also know how to reach me. Cool. That's kind of fun. This somewhat overlaps with what we were doing with the calendar before. So that's cool. That's cool. Almost like you had that ready to go. I'm not suspicious. Okay. How much time? I've got about... When do I have to leave? 2:30? Okay, so we have about half an hour left. Forgetting. Because I have to coach later again. So I coached this morning, 6 a.m. And I'm coaching all afternoon. It's gonna be a long day. It's gonna be a long day. So I'll have to head out here in half an hour. So the other thing that I wanted to check out today, I found this website that generates ideas for you to do for live stream. It's literally called livestreamideas.com. I found it on Reddit. I want to take a peek at that because yeah, go ahead, ask your question. I'm gonna keep talking. Ask your question. We are going to, oh, no, you already had it ready to go. Okay, cool, awesome. How did you make such a good work-life balance? Oh, I'm not the person to be asking that. I have an awful work-life balance. Terrible. Okay, but let's talk about that because I'm working on it. I'm working on it. The best thing I did early on, because you stayed very healthy during your PhD, I've seen others, oh, thank you, struggle with that. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I still think I have a terrible work-life balance despite that, but I'm getting better. How early on in my PhD, the mindset I went in with is I did treat it like a job. I didn't treat it like school when you kind of just did work like off hours. Like you had to do a lot of your assignments, you're studying kind of out in weird times. That doesn't work super well in grad school, at least for me. Some people it does work well for. I personally like to treat research grad school as work. So I treated it like a 9 to 5. I showed up to, like when I was in the thick of things, I showed up to lab at 8 a.m. I did my work, and then come 3-4 in the afternoon, that's when I would go, I'd leave because I'd go to the gym. And so I had a very structured day. Go to lab, and then once you're done with lab, like once you're done, once you leave the lab, the office, the field, just be done for the day. Just create that nice structure, that nice routine. There are going to be plenty of times during your career where you're going to have to break that routine. When you're in the heat of lab work or field work, your routine's going to get thrown up in the air. Conferences come up, publications and other deadlines come up where you have to violate a little bit. But if you keep that routine for 90% of your career, even like 85%, I like to use 85% of the time, if you keep that structure, that is how you kind of maintain some level of sanity. Other things for work-life balance, health-wise, I thought about recording that today actually. So it's funny you asked this question because I had been thinking about doing that for the weekly update today. Since I recorded it at the gym, I'm like, maybe I should talk about physical health now. Maybe I'll do that next week because I'll be there early. I'll be recording probably in the gym again next week. Maybe I'll do that there. Physical health is super important. So any kind of activity that you can do during the day regularly, again, like build it into your schedule. That's good. It can even be walking. Like, I don't care, as long as some kind of activity is happening, that's good. Because physically it helps. Sorry, I was getting a text. I mean, physical health is fairly apparent. But when it comes to research, and here's what I was thinking about talking. Here's what I was thinking about talking about in that video, and I'll probably do it next week. There are weird things that happen in research. If you do field work, field equipment is very heavy. In the lab, equipment can be very heavy. a lot of weird things that happen that you wouldn't expect, and maintaining a level of physical fitness can help you just be prepared for that. And I think everyone, regardless of what your project is, like there's something you're going to have to do where a good level of physical fitness can make you more independent, more capable. I think, um, I believe very, I think that very firmly. I believe that very firmly. But also, across the grad school, all of us, nearly all of us, I can't say all of us with certainty. That'd be a bad scientist if I said everyone. But the vast majority of grad students, I say, struggle with anxiety at some point or some mental health issues. And maintaining physical fitness is a great way to help manage anxiety, manage stress, because it gives physical activity, gives that anxiety, gives that stress somewhere to go. It gives it a very good channel to like press it out. It also helps you sleep better. If you're sleeping better, that's good for your mental health. It's good for your physical health too. They're all connected. It's all connected. So yeah, those are like the main benefits I would think for like grad school people to do. It's like it makes you more capable, and it makes you it helps with anxiety. I'll also include like within physical health, there's like nutrition. Nutrition's it's a key factor. You've talked with me plenty of time about the food that you and your family eat. Sounds delicious. Uh, Eating quality, like whole foods, home cooked meals, like that's really the best way. That's good for physical health, and it boosts mental health too. Again, it's all connected. Um, Shoot, I lost my train of thought. That I was very big on nutrition. Oh, and it's not expensive. Like you hear all these grad students like eating ramen and Pop Tarts all the time. Field biologists, I give a little bit of leeway with, because going out in the field, you just need food that's easy to keep dry and accessible. So like Pop Tarts are very common. Crackers, peanut butter, like that's very common field food. It's better to eat something than nothing. Very firm believer of that. But like high quality, whole foods, home cooked meals should be a go to, like, again, at least 85% of the time. And it's not as expensive as people think. Grocery prices through the roof. Yes, I know that. I feel that every single day. But if you're strategic with it and kind of stick with just whole foods, it's actually not too terribly expensive. And if you meal prep, it's even less expensive. I spend on average like 70, 75 bucks a week on food for me. And Anna, you know how much food I eat. I eat a lot of food. There's a reason Dr. Parkinson says, if you need to find Matt, look for the food. I eat a lot. And there are plenty of strategies. Maybe I'll make a post about, I need to write this down. Where are my sticky notes? Okay, we'll make a post for that. Nutrition tips and eating. I know I have that on some idea list somewhere, but I'm just remembering to do this now. Okay. Needs, benefits, and costs. Uh-huh. Okay. Got that taken care of. That was a good question. Oh, but I think there was one part I was missing at that. I still think I have a pretty rough work-life balance. I work a lot versus how much I rest. I'm trying to change that. I keep track of my hours on a calendar. I started doing that towards the end of my PhD because I was working like 70-hour weeks. I hope no one ever has to do that. That was terrible. Um, a lot of it my own fault. But keeping track of your hours to know just how much like you are actually working, that level of awareness can help you be like, whoa, I need to like chill out for a sec. I need to like chill out. I need to do something that's fun. Do not lose, this is not a tangent, this is like on the train of thought. Keep up with your hobbies, whatever they may be. Music, don't let go of your music ever. You in particular, Anna, I'm not talking to YouTube here about like, you should keep doing, everyone on YouTube watching this, like, should have like a musical hobby. It's fun, even if you suck at it. Um, but I'm answering like you in particular, Anna, like, keep playing your music as much as you can and do other things that are fun. That's why I have the gardening. That's why I have the hobbies page in the community forum. And so like people remember like, oh yes, we need to live. We need to live our lives. Research is not your life, it is your job. Your job is supposed to sustain your life outside of research. It is still possible to be passionate about your work, but not let it consume you. That's really the goal of it here. Do a good job, but when you go home, don't do your job. Take care of yourself. Hobbies, food, physical activity, sleep, connect with people, connect with friends. These are the ways of work-life balance. I still suck at that. I'm getting better, but I'm still terrible at it. There's another good video idea. There was the one I did a couple months ago about like the thing that my team is great at that I'm terrible at, that I suck at. We'll add another one to that list. Work-life balance. Oh, it's hard in a mission-driven field like coral research to put that passion aside for the evening and live your life, but you got to do it. You got to do it, otherwise you'll lose that passion, and then you won't want to do this anymore. All right. Last 20 minutes or so, let's check out this website. And we'll write down some of our big stream ideas. You're going to help me out here, Anna. Maybe. I know you're busy at the moment, probably. But we're going to come up with some fun ideas to stream about in the coming weeks. I need a different sticky note than this. Because I have, so the tier list, I said this at the beginning of the video, but I think it was before you were here. The tier list video is crushing it. Really popular, which is good because that one was fun and it was a lot of work to put together. I want to come up with some more ideas. I jumped ahead. So I jumped ahead. Tier list was crushing it. I could easily just replicate, we just do more tier lists, but there's only so many related to the research field and corals that we can pretty much do. Like I know we have coral species that's in the docket, I think for 2 weeks from now. I think I plan on doing that one. But we need some other activities to do during stream. And it's kind of tricky in our instance because what a lot of streamers do, they'll like play video games because that's their job. Like their job is content creation of video games, which is great for them. My content creation is work focused, research focused. I can't always share what I'm doing because there might be information that I can't share publicly. It would also be really boring, I think. I don't know. Me like answering emails and planning projects for Refunity Network. I don't know, some people might find that interesting. And to some degree, looking ahead, maybe we could do that, like plotting out months ahead That could be a fun one. But a lot, and the third point is if I need brain power for work, I can't live stream that. That is too much. That is a lot of power, a lot of brain power, and I would get distracted, which the distraction part is fine. But splitting between chat and the project I'm working on and like talking through the project as I'm working on it, like that's a lot of brain power that I'd rather just use quietly, like I would prefer to do independently. Even though I do talk to myself out loud a lot when I'm working independently, it's still different because I'm more talking to myself rather than I'm talking out loud here because I'm talking to an audience. A little different. So let's check out that. Oh my God, I'm still talking about this. All I want to do is read through some of these. So we're going to scroll through some of them, see if we have any ideas that um, come up that would be fun. So, like this one, talk about something that made you happy recently. That's a good opener. Or a good Q&A for like a good Q&A stream, which I think that's actually next week. I have to look ahead on that. It'd be like a segment within a stream. This would be a good segment within a stream. Like what we're doing right now is a segment within a stream, but I would not advertise that we're doing this. Like for this stream, I advertised that I was walking you through how to plan a project. That's something within my idea of like how to operate this. That didn't make any sense at all. Oh my God. See, this is why like I couldn't work on a project as I'm live streaming. Within the theme, so like I would advertise something that fits within the scope of Reef Unity Network. So we're professional development, we're career focused. So I'm not going to advertise like, oh yeah, I'm just hopping on. We'll talk about something that made me happy recently. I did that too. We had that post. That's funny though. Like we had that post a couple weeks ago about talking about something that made you happy recently. I went to that concert. It was fantastic. So I'm not a huge fan of this one, but we'll just keep scrolling through. Let's keep scrolling through. Play Will You Press the Button? Discuss with chat. I have no idea what that means. I have zero idea what that means. If it's like, is it something like press the button to receive $1 million, but the world explodes? I guess. Again, a good segment within the stream, but maybe not something I'd advertise. We're probably not going to get much we can actually advertise. I doubt there are ideas in here, too many ideas that would be coral centric or research centric. So, but we'll just keep doing that here. I can't see what you're showing about the button, but if it's the red or blue button. Def always press blue. Always press the blue button. Wait, what do you mean about I can't see what you're showing about the button? Oh. Oh, this didn't update. That's so weird. Hang on, hang on, hang on, hang on. Stare at my face. Whoa. It didn't. Why isn't this updating? Okay, OBS. What are we doing here? Let's try resetting the browser, I suppose. Whoa. There we go. Okay. I just had to restart the capture mode. Okay, you should be able to see that now. Thanks for pointing that out. I'll have to keep so many tech problems today. The first 5 minutes of me talking on this stream, Anna, I was muted. I was muted. Just like the weekly update video from last Friday. That one was not my fault. The mic disconnected and I just didn't know. But this one, yeah. Okay, let's see if this keeps going. Next idea. Talk about your favorite foods or show them. We did talk about food with work-life balance. I like a lot of food. Next, invite a friend that doesn't play games. Teach them to play on live stream. That would be hilarious. That'd be hilarious. That we could do, but we'd have to like actually play games to do that. And one of these days, I've got some fun video games that we can play. They're so relaxing. There's one, it's called Town to City. It's so relaxing. We'll do that. We'll do that on a day that I'm like beyond exhausted, which we're getting there. Because of my poor work-life balance, we're getting there. And we'll maybe do that. I almost did it today. Tell a story about a first date. Nope. Wander on the useless web. Live stream. Oh, live stream you working with others like Lauren. You guys always talk about cool things. Well, there some of the live streams I'd like. I'd like to run interviews for sure. Is that what you mean? Or do you mean like in group work sessions where Lauren and I are just working? We usually don't talk. We talk at the beginning, but then we don't really talk till the end of the session. I just turn on music and we like just go through work. But if you're talking about like when we're in the lab, yeah, we'd always talk. Yes. Okay, not helpful. Interview. Okay. Yeah. That's the word. That's the word. Yeah, we'll definitely do some yeah. So in the here's another thing that was not entirely truthful on for the weekly update video today. I said I had a bunch of interview questions or like interviews set up. I don't quite have that ready. I have the concepts in my head and like how I want to run it, but I haven't asked the people I want to interview yet. I did ask Dr. Parkinson. He said yes, but I have not given him the questions nor a date. That I need to figure out. Um, I'll probably interview Lauren. We'll talk because the idea of the interviews is people in various stages of their careers. So I'll ask, Dr. Parkinson. He's well into his research career. Hopefully, getting tenure here shortly. Knock on wood. Oh, knock on wood. And then hopefully some like later career stages, but then grad students as well. Try and get everyone and have like a series, excuse me, of similar questions so you can hear how different people in different career stages think of things, like things they wish they knew, career advice, other career advice, where they think the field is headed. Oh, I had another thought in there. Anyway, okay. trying to bring this together. I have an email that I'm going to send out in a social post I'll send out where I'm going to poll you guys, see what questions you might have. Like, I have questions that I would want to ask in an interview, but I might have different priorities than you guys. And so I want to get some insight, see what some of the most popular ones are, and then we'll publish those, like put those together into like an interview format. So that's our idea there. I just need to get my butt in gear and start getting those. I should form a list. I should ask the people. I should get dates. Especially since it's summer right now, like people might have more time. Maybe if they're not traveling. But there's also ICRS coming up in July. So I probably can't do anything until after ICRS. That's fine. That's okay. That's okay. I know I'd like it sooner, but that gives me time to really get ahead on that. There's so many other things that I'm way ahead on. And then that will be like the next on the list. Okay. What other things can we talk about? Share a bit of knowledge about something you are passionate about. We do that a lot here. We do that a lot. You ask very good questions that get me to spill about that. And keep asking those questions because they're easy to incorporate. I can talk about coral research then too, and they become very clippable. Those are the things that I get to share. And though that's really allowed me to get so far ahead in the planning and content production, content creation, is running these and having these clippable moments. So it's almost like free posts. It's not free, like we're putting in the work. This live stream, like we're just kind of sitting around talking, but like this is work for me. For me. We're creating stuff. We're sharing knowledge. That's something hard. That's something I've been struggling with lately because this feels very it feels almost like a waste of time to me because I've never been able to like sit down and chat. I've never really let myself sit down and chat with people like this. So it almost feels like I'm procrastinating. And there are probably other things I could be doing, but I'm still accomplishing things. So something I'm working on accepting. Like this is a part of my job now. That's what's it. It's like this is a part of my job now. Crazy. It's a crazy concept for me. Talk about a small thing that made okay, we already had something like this. Tier lists. Yes, yep, we're doing tier lists. Not of fruits, probably, but like our next one, we're probably doing like Caribbean coral species, and we'll have other research centered ones. But I'm doing this because I want other things beyond interviews and tier lists and like professional development stuff. I want some like other things mixed in there so there's more variety. Let's keep it going. Invite some friends and play Dungeons and Dragons on stream. Dr. Parkinson would 1000% do that. I don't play Dungeons and Dragons, but he does. So I could probably get him to do that, but I know nothing about it. Play a game. I don't know that game. Tell a story about your best friends. Oh, cute. Not into Pokemon. Ooh, ask your viewers how much time they spent in your main game. Check how much you did. Most games have one. Okay, hang on. So we can make a spin-off of this. Let's apply it somewhere else. So instead of How much time did you spend on a game? Ask how much time you worked on. This is a hot question to ask. How much time did you work on your publications today? And how much time did I work on it? This week, I spent 2 hours? 1 hour? On one of my publications. I was in R. I was adjusting figures. But yeah. We'll keep this one in mind. It'll be a lot easier when we have like more people. Yeah, we need like a lot of people for that. We could also, ooh, we could play Coral Libs. Yep. I've got a few of those already written. We can do that too. Okay. We'll give this another minute here. We'll scroll through a few and then I have to take off. Design your own merch on stream. Maybe not merch, but like I can show you the process I use for creating graphics. Not publication graphics, maybe publication graphics. Social media graphics. Review memes. We kind of did that today. We looked at the horse meme, the iconic horse meme. Now we're getting good. Show your pet. I have a bunch of plants right now. I sadly do not have a pet. But there's a story for each of the plants. Could do that. I don't know what that is. No. 5 more. We got 5 more, and then I have to leave. Watch your top clips. That's hilarious. Let's do that. Yep, we're doing that. We will 1000% make fun of myself. I'm okay with that. So I've got 4 left. Pick a quick 1v1 against a viewer. Maybe later on. Talk about something you like that many people don't. I think that's going to come up naturally. I'll write it down. Maybe there's one topic that I come across that I really despise or really enjoy. I think we have 2 left, 3 or 2. We'll just say 3. How your viewers choose what you will play next. We'll see. Talk about the last conversation with you had a friend. That'll come up naturally. Already had that. They'll have to add more. Interview other streamers. We already plan on doing that. Tell a story about you started streaming. Oh. So any behind the scenes. Yeah, that'll come up organically, but that could be an individual stream like the origin. That's a whole story. Oh my God, that's a whole story. The origin. What Refunity Network is now was not what I had originally envisioned. Not at all. Q&A session, that's already in the works. Cook something. I cook on Sundays. Interview. Okay, we're getting some repeats here. So we're going to call it there for today. That was fun. We went through how to plan out a project using freeform or a whiteboard, reverse engineering or working backwards, answered some questions about getting started in research, advice I would give myself. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Anna. And then we've got some ideas for some upcoming streams. I'll probably pick one of these for next week, although we might have the Q&A. I don't know, I have to look at the calendar that I have planned out so far in advance now, besides streaming. But now we're building that list, so we have some ideas there. But okay, I'm gonna call it there. YouTube, have a wonderful weekend. Catch you next week. All right, bye-bye.